Alright, today I'm going to show you how to make a chill, upbeat type of beat. Alright, so, my bad. Alright, so I'll go through each part and explain how I did everything. Alright, so first thing I did is I started out with this pad. So I actually made these chords with a piano at first, and then I just changed the instrument to a pad. So it's very chill, ambient. There's a lot of reverb, and I filtered out the sound as well so that you only have the low end. Without it, it sounds like this. So yeah, it's not really the same type of vibe. So I just filtered it out, added a bunch of reverb, and makes it sound more ambient. The next thing that I did was I took those same chords, I muted a few things, and then I changed the instrument to a guitar. So I thought it went pretty well with the pad. And then for the last section, I just repeated some of the chords, but at a lower velocity so that it sounds kind of like an echo. And I had another guitar. This is more of an electric guitar with a lot of reverb as well. So just really far in the background and add some texture at some parts. Then I think the next thing I did was I took those same chords and then I kind of made a rhythm out of it. And then I used an organ actually, which I don't normally use, but I don't know, it gave like a cool vibe. Sounds kind of weird by itself, but I'll show you what it sounds like with everything else in a sec. Just wanted to mention too that I put a delay on this to give it kind of like a bouncy feel. So everything so far all together sounds like this. Then I think the next thing I did was I added the drums and some sound effects. So like we have this weird bell type of sound. Then we have some hi-hats. So just really quiet. They're all playing at like different velocities to give it a little bit of bounce. Then there's two different snares. So we have like a reverse snare and then a regular kind of like a live sounding snare. So they just alternate. And then there's some more hi-hats that come in at some points. Just give like a little bit of accent. And then at the end of the 8 bars, just to create some variation for restarting the loop. Sounds like this. And then there is a simple kick, really basic pattern. It's also like a more live sounding kick. I wanted more like kind of like live sounding drums for the type of vibe that I was going for. Then there's a second snare. So that just gives a little bit of bounce at some parts. So I'll play all the drums together. So it's a really basic groove, but then with the instruments that we've added so far, it sounds like this. There's also an 808, which I forgot to mention. Might be a bit hard to hear if you're like just listening on a phone or without headphones, but it sounds like this. So yeah, I wanted that 808 feel with the type of chill vibe. I thought it'd be a cool contrast. Then the next thing I did is I wanted to create a bit of variation and some more parts to the beat. So I found a loop of a vocal sample and I just chopped it up. So I just drowned it in reverb, added some delay, and I thought it went really well with the pad that we have so far. Really ambient feel. Then I found a percussion loop. And then there are a few synth loops that I found. I'll just play them and then I'll show the rest of the beat, like how I laid everything out. Not all of these instruments play at the same time. So first synth loop that I found was this. So it's pretty chill. It goes with what we have so far. I just looked, I think it's called like BandLab, the website that I use. Yeah, it is. Where you can search by key for loops. So I just found some stuff that was in the same key of the pad that I already made. So second synth is this. Also pretty chill. Then I chopped up these other chords and reversed them. Sounds like this normally. But then I reversed it so that it sounds like this. And that just plays underneath these other synths. So all together. That's all the elements of the beat. The next step was to just arrange everything. So we don't want everything just playing all at the same time throughout the whole beat. It's gonna be like really boring and it's gonna be like too much happening at the same time. So I took some of those synth loops that I found, or one of them actually, and I made it the intro. And then I put those reversed chords behind it for the second half of the intro. So intro sounds like this. So yeah, it goes into the verse. I just wanted to point out I added these two transition sounds just to make it a little bit smoother from the intro into something completely different for the verse. And then for the verse, kind of build up slowly. Not all the drums are introduced at the same time. So yeah, you see some instruments get added as you go just to make it sound more interesting. The kick comes in over here. And then for the second half of these 8 bars, I filtered out the reverse snare and I took out the main snare. And then I also filtered the kick. I took this pad, I transposed it down an octave. So it's just to give a little bit of a break and a different vibe from the rest of the verse section. And then we go into the pre-hook where we introduce the guitars. And then for the hook, it's the same thing. I just introduced that other electric guitar and the 808 comes in as well. And then the drums come back into. Then after that, it's back into the next verse. And I think it's pretty much the exact same thing. The only difference is I added these accent snares. Then it goes back to the pre-hook, back to the hook. And then this is where I start introducing more of those other like synth loops that I found. So we go into kind of like a bridge section. These sections don't have to be that. When I'm recording on it, it doesn't always end up being that the hook section is actually where I record the hook. It's more just to give myself like a kind of guideline of where I was thinking certain things could go at the time that I made the beat, but it doesn't always end up being that. So yeah, we got this bridge section where there's these synth loops that slowly come in, and then the pad that we had earlier gets dropped altogether just so that we can go into the outro. The bridge leading up to the outro sounds like this. So pretty ambient. Then we get that other synth loop coming in here. And then for the outro, it's all the same drums. I just switched up the pattern. So I made the kick a lot more active than it was before. I made the reverse snare that's filtered out. I made that the main snare and took out the other snare that we had. Or no, actually, sorry, it was actually a mistake. So stuff got shifted around, and what was supposed to be on, like, let's say the snare track then got put onto the kick track or whatever, and then it actually ended up sounding good. So I just left it as is and just like modified some stuff. The 808 is a lot more active here, and then I also made some parts where it just cuts out to give like a little bit of a space, and it kind of like shocks your ear a little bit so that it's kind of like unexpected, so then your ears like perk up a little bit. You start to hear some other sounds in the beat and stuff like that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's just like that little synth at the end that I put a delay on for the actual end of the beat. And yeah, that's it. I'll just let the beat play out. Thanks for watching.